In 2020, in 2020, the largest health and economic crisis in recent history hit us, and it forced people, governments, and companies to take extraordinary measures to protect themselves. Leaders were faced with a situation like never before. Suddenly, the conversation changed from thriving to surviving. While the impact of this crisis varied across industries, it brought in some near-term and some permanent changes to businesses. And the crisis also provided us a peek into the future, a future in which digital has become central to every interaction. One in automated processes will be the primary driver of productivity, and the world in which agile ways of working are a prerequisite. Today, as we sit in 2021, it looks like the year when the world transitions to the next. I have with me a great set of leaders, people across sectors, who will share their experiences and insights with us, and also help us understand what really happened in the last 1 year, what were the changes which were permanent, and what were the changes which were near term in this. So I will direct questions towards the CEOs, a couple of CEOs, but the questions are such that everyone can come in and chime in. So that the conversation just flows. I think the first question, I think, to set a context would be: is the second wave more damaging than the first wave? We are in year 2 of COVID. I mean, I'm sure you must have worked on your forecasting models for the COVID impact. If we can, Mr. Venkataraman and Balasubramanian can start in terms of what damage have they seen in the second wave, and then I'll ask most of the all the CEOs to join in with their views.
Thank you, Vinod. The psychological damage of wave 2 is much more. The COVID impact came close to all of us in companies, in families, with neighbors and friends and all that. For example, in our company, we lost 14 people in just 2 months, as opposed to 3 over a year in the last wave. And that just illustrates the situation. And because of that, the mood is more somber. And we expect, therefore, the economic recovery, particularly on the consumption side, to take a little longer than the first time. That's our sense. But at the same time, because of the availability of the vaccine and the speed at which vaccination is happening, which was not there in 2020, thereafter, once people are vaccinated, the recovery will be faster. So it's more like a U curve, if I can say, as opposed to a V.
Sure. Mr. Balasubramanian?
Yeah, this is Mahesh here. I'm presuming there are 2 of us with the same name, so I'm presuming it's
yes.
But I'll go first in any case. Yes. Yeah, coming from the insurance industry, we can definitely say that the impact of the pandemic has been of a much larger scale compared to wave 1, because we did see the infection rates going up to as much as 4.4 lakhs, infections per week. And then we also saw the mortality rate hugely going up, while people are still trying to make a guess out of overall mortality, whether it is 4x, 6x, the various figures are floating around. But from insurance companies' perspective, we can definitely say that the impact has been quite severe. Both on the health insurance side, where the claims have been coming thick and fast, and also on the life insurance side, we are seeing early reporting from employer-employee segment and individual term segments. So if you ask, the impact has certainly been of a much higher order. And one can also perceive it because our own colleagues at work, as Mr. Venkat was saying, mortality within the company, our partners, our relatives of our employees, I think this has been of a much larger scale than what the wave 1 was, at least in terms of morbidity and mortality. Business impact, of course, depending on the sector of the economy, the business impact could have been different for services versus manufacturing versus e-commerce, etc. But yeah, overall, has the impact been much higher? I would say on the insurance side, definitely so.
Any of the tech CEOs would like to join in?
Yeah, I echo what both Venkatji and Mahesh said. The impact because of loss of lives both in within the company and externally, is really the key reason why the second wave has been much more impactful. I think all of us have gone through that. While on the business side, we may have recovered better because we've already been prepared for the first wave. There was a lot of uncertainty, but in terms of the just loss of people and the mood, as Venkatji rightly said, is really what defines the second wave. And I think people are now a lot more cautious. Earlier, we were getting a lot of requests for people to come to start working in Jan, when things had settled down or seem to have settled down. But now people are much more cautious despite vaccinations. Yeah.
Sure. One of the things that has happened is basically a lot of people are also betting on it that there will be some long-term changes and there will be some near-term changes which COVID crisis will bring about. I mean, if you look at your own businesses, which do you think will be the short-term businesses and which will be long-term businesses, which you'll have to factor in forecasting and also creating new business models? If Mr. Nambiar and Mr. Gurnani can go from.
Thank you, Vinod.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Say that again, CP.
No, I will speak very loudly that Rajesh is the smarter one. So he should go first.
Thank you, CP. But look, Vinod, it's very clear. Right? I mean, I think this pandemic has not just been only a humanitarian crisis, and of course, inflicted a lot of tragic losses. It's also been a defining moment for business, right? And I guess the question was around that. So in short term, for most businesses, COVID-19 has been at least a stress test in many ways. They experienced a mix of challenges from office shutdown to shifts to remote working, to how they manage the budget, and then of course rising worries about employees and health and cyber risk and so on and so forth. So that's a short-term impact, if you may. But long stand, I honestly believe that the fundamental question of resilience over efficiency, do you really, because pre-pandemic, if you may, everybody wanted to make their organizations and supply chains, not just for the IT companies, I'm saying broadly in the business, overdone on the efficiency side. But now there's a little bit of a rethink around, should efficiency be secondary to resiliency, meaning that, if you need to do something near shore or what you need to do from a supply chain, you don't necessarily look for only efficiency, but can you also build in resilience in many ways? And then there are lots of other trends, right? If you can take from a tech world point of view, greater adoption of cloud, changing in buying patterns, all of this got either accelerated pretty heavily. At the same time, new supply chains, new business models, new scientific breakthroughs actually were all realized in months, not necessarily years. So that's actually accelerated many of the stuff we all do, and then this coupled with a structural change, following more than a year of turbulence, if you may, this is like a business environment very, very ripe for reinvention that has actually emerged. So looking at the bigger picture, we believe that the pandemic will make businesses change a greater imperative, right? This whole business change will become, so much so real as we go. So while companies will undoubtedly become more digital, and I would say more digital far sooner than what they planned for, they will also become more socially responsible as they strive to meet their increasing desire for a healthier and a safer world. So CP, over to you.
Thanks, Rajesh. From my perspective, COVID-19 has the largest and the fastest shift that one has ever seen in the behavior of the humans. And since people is a critical part of the technology industry that many of us like Sharad, Arun, Balasubramanian, frankly, there is no industry which is not a technology industry. So my point is that people are the center of the technology industry, and this COVID-19, we will have to calibrate into the behavioral changes. The second part is we have to take into account a lot of shifts that we are leading will become faster. For example, there used to be this statement that about half the Fortune 500 companies would now be in the emerging markets. My belief is that statement was going to become truer much earlier than we are all envisaged. Similarly, that we have always given this projection that X million jobs will have to be replaced. Now, the numbers could be 260 million over the next 5 years, but the point is very simple, is that rate of change is now accelerated. So our focus on creating this post-COVID economy means we will have to focus harder on people, we will have to focus harder on digitization, we will have to focus harder on reskilling and redevelopment, and more important is we will have to take into account that the new jobs are being created by the new age companies. And those new age companies, the fundamental fabric is entrepreneurship. That every time a Zomato or a Baiju valuation goes up, we have to take into account it is not just a valuation, it is the whole ecosystem which has risen with the tide. And again, the skill and the people will make a huge difference. So post-COVID, I think it's a huge opportunity for India. In technology industry, in IT industry, we discussed 200 billion going up to $1 trillion. I know we may miss it by a year because of the COVID holiday, but I think if we can repurpose ourselves to focus on that outcome of $1 trillion and rework our strategies, our supply chain, our systems, our skills, we will be much better off.
So a couple of things which I've gathered is basically, one, the CEOs have to see around the bend, looking at what consumer changes have happened, how the business models will change. And for the IT industry, I think reskilling is going to be a big challenge. If we can ask Mr. Venkataraman and Mahesh, how are they seeing basically, how are they looking at what has changed on the consumer side? The consumer behavior or basically the way to reach them has changed, has really changed.
You know, the whole idea of dressing up, dressing up for work, dressing up for dining out, dressing up for, going to somebody's home, all those have dramatically, crashed. And certainly in the near term, it will continue to be muted, and it will rise when a very high level of vaccination is reached. But the notion of working from home, as well as doing things from your office, like so much of work now, you're doing product inspections remotely, product meets where people used to come physically to choose products for ordering. Everything is getting remotely done and effectively done. And therefore, the whole notion of travel will dramatically reduce. So certainly from a demand for products which are in the dressing up, from apparel to watches to so many other products, shoes and all that, will have to be recalibrated. And we need to modify our approaches. For example, apparel companies are focusing a lot on what is called smart casuals. Expensive t-shirts that more and more people are buying because they're sitting in front of laptops like us now and doing work. And you don't need formal shirts to do this. You have a very, very smart t-shirt to do this. The whole about the keyboard dressing is going to be for a while in the new world. That's one big development that companies like us have to reckon with.
Mahesh?
Yeah, if I look at the financial services, I think there has been a huge demand for certain products. I think sitting at home, I think especially wave one saw a huge demand for broking accounts, savings accounts. Protection is becoming a very, very important topic for customers because they do realize that they need health insurance or a protection insurance, term insurance, etc. So certain parts of the financial services business has seen a huge spurt in demand. And the good news is the entire demand is getting catered to through an acceleration of digital capabilities. All of us had digital assets, but I think the adoption has gone through the roof in this period. And we have also been able to quickly respond to the changing needs of consumers. For instance, a product like life insurance normally tends to get more and more sold face to face, especially if you're buying an endowment plan or a plan which is slightly more complicated. I think customers are happy now to sit in front of a screen and take their advice from their advisor and then go ahead and complete the entire process through a digital enablement. So I think the way the products are consumed, the way we are selling our products, the way the partners are interacting with companies, the digital adoption of various assets which are already there. I think all these have seen quite a bit of shift in the last 12 months. And I think some of these, to my mind, are permanent changes. Some of them, inertia may bring back people to the old way of doing things. But we hope and pray that efficiency will come through. And it also gives us an opportunity to make sure that expertise is available at one place, right? Because some of these products, it's always better to have an expert who can probably advise the customer. And today, geography being history, our ability to also offer a differentiated experience to customers in terms of advice, the quality of advice and the experience is definitely been of a much higher quality than what would have been in the past. No?
Looks like there is a reset in business happening. So, I mean, if the companies are themselves resetting businesses, then I'm sure the IT technology people and also the providers will also have to change according to that. Arun, if you can come in and talk about the changes in that IT providers are seeing, how they will have to respond to the changes on the client side.
Right. No, that's a great question. And thank you, firstly, for having me on this panel, Vinod. And you're very right. I think one of the common themes that has come up is digitization and digital adoption. I think you're right that digital adoption has actually taken a quantum leap over the last few months. But that said, I think you're only as good as your people. And winning today actually means delivering new digital business models faster than your competitors, and to make it easy for your employees to do the work from anywhere. And in order to succeed in this new normal, I think every company must underpin the business with digital workflows. And it's just not a surprise at all for me, as I have a conversation with many India-based executives and employees, that there is consensus that actually pandemic has helped companies forge new and better ways of working. And in fact, I think we heard that from many leaders here in this panel as well. Indian organizations have led the uptake of digital experiences over the last few months at pace, driving experimentation and new thinking compared to the rest of the world. And technology has actually made it possible for us to stay connected, engaged, maintain productivity away from office. So India is actually, with India actually taking charge of its digital future, one of the biggest challenges which we still need to solve for is to overcome many of the old processes of the last half century that remained disconnected across systems and departments, leaving them absolutely vulnerable for a next major disruption, actually. So I truly believe, in my view, is in the decade ahead, business leaders will be tested on how they enable employees and their organizations to make the most of the digital workflow revolution. I think right strategy is essential. And when you connect every corner of your organizations through digital workflows, getting things done would be easier, and location would definitely cease to matter. So in my view, while there is so much done, there is lots to be done, and businesses that actually are embracing digitization would continue to remain more resilient and would fare better.
I think digitization and resilience are the two words which I hear from CEOs all the time these days. But if we see, COVID has pushed companies over the technology tipping point. Digital adoption, if we see, we've moved ahead, I think, 3 or 4 years because of the accelerated change. The question to everyone in the panel is, how easy or difficult was it to basically create the digital? Things happen suddenly. You need to build a backup for that. You need to have your processes ready. You need to have people to manage it. Since it's such a large theme and we have a variety of people here and bring in different experience, how difficult or easy was it basically to accelerate that digitization of the consumer end of the supply chain and in the internal operations. If Mr. Gurnani, you can lead the way.
This morning when I picked up the newspaper, Mr. Sunil Mittal was saying that India needs 3 vibrant telcos. And I 100% agree with him, because if it was not for the telecom infrastructure in India, I think this whole COVID could have impacted the Indian IT industry so badly that we would have never been able to recover. We have to thank the telecom industry for them being resilient, them being able to support, the way my CIO puts it, that I used to run 20 data centers. This is 20 large office campuses that Tech Mahindra has. And me and Sharad Sanghi were talking to each other about a few weeks ago. And the question then was, how did this 20 data center culture go into hundreds of thousands of the homes? How did we, how as a company, how as a country, how as a, service providers, we all rallied together. ServiceNow, Arun will share with you, that came up with a new product, which was developed in India as a new platform for work from home. So all I'm trying to say is that grateful to telecom and grateful to network providers like NTT or network service providers, or to platform providers like ServiceNow. I think we graduated from 20 data centers to 200,000 data centers. I'm calling every PC at home as a data center. And that it was secure, that it was 24/7 available, and that we could all work collaboratively together. I think it is clearly a performance of the ecosystem.
Sure. Mahesh?
Yeah, at our end, I think where we really see some of these challenges actually going forward, or even when we got into it, was physically first. Work from home hit us like something that we did not envisage. But luckily, I think we were prepared better because some of the solutions already existed. Initial scramble was for physical assets. You need more laptops, you need more VPN connections, something as simple as that, cyber security. These were the initial teething troubles that all of us went through. But having said that, our vendors supported us quite a bit in the initial parts. And thereafter also, how do we really manage your customer service? Because call center activities, moving it to a work from home with all the security and all the recordings, etc. So some of these were infrastructure related, some of these were workflow related. But I think I must say with great amount of comfort, and most of the industry responded pretty well. And I think by around, if you ask me, mid-March and beginning of April was a little bit of a struggle. But I think by April 10th or 15th, most companies went through it. You won't believe it, regulators responded well. I must say that at least the insurance regulators were extremely on top of the curve in terms of giving us the dispensations. And even inspections were conducted by the regulators online. So I think pretty much BAU was restored within a quick span of time. And thereafter, I think one could see the positive side of this in terms of employer work-life balance, working from home benefits, efficiencies coming through, costs going down. I think it was a transition from initially trying to grapple with primary things and thereafter evolving into managing this in a much more efficient way than one would have envisaged. But I think overall the speed to respond was pretty good. And I think the resulting outcome was quite satisfactory.
Sure. Sharad, if you can share your thoughts about how difficult it was to scale up.
Yeah, sure. Vinod. So we saw a huge uptake, as CP was mentioning, in cloud, data center, network, security, digital workplace services. And, but what was amazing to see was that even banks, where we were earlier, providing equipment on their premises, so a lot of regulated industries would not like to use certain services from the cloud. I mean, a lot of banking applications are on the cloud, but even things like security, we've adopted almost all our services which from an on-prem model to a cloud model. So security, the SOC, which is the Security Operations Center, is now as a service. Right? Application performance measurement is now as a service. We partnered with ServiceNow to offer their platform as a service. So it's just been amazing to see how digital transformation has taken place in all the enterprises. And obviously that meant a huge scale up from our side. While while initially, because of construction activities being slow and equipment deliveries being slow, there was a little bit of a challenge. But overall, I think we managed pretty well, and and that's the reason, despite our industry, while there was a humanitarian impact, but from a business perspective, there was good growth during the pandemic to provide these solutions to clients. Yeah.
So, how difficult was it for you to change then? Because your business is retail oriented, store oriented. Everything moved online. How difficult was it to create a new channel, or rather accelerate stuff on a new channel, and also maintain, reorient internal processes?
Fortunately, we had invested substantially in digital technologies way back in 2016, and we were running at a certain clip, and that momentum just lifted because of the readiness that we were already in. The other thing was that I would certainly say necessity was the mother of invention, and we had not done one sale through video demonstration before April of 20, but by July we were doing 100 crores of video sales a month, where the staff, because the staff knew the customers, we had deep relationships which the 15,000 staff had with millions of our customers on our loyalty program. They knew them personally. So they could simply set up a video demonstration of necklaces or pendants, for instance, or watches, and take 1.5 hours to showcase some 10 necklaces to the customer. And the customer often would come still to the store, but spend only about 10 minutes to get the product packed. So in a way, the evolution of both customers and the company employees happened because of the necessity that the situation. So both the level of preparedness that we were already into, fortunately for us, and the necessity that the pandemic sort of implied. These were the two reasons why we leapfrogged, I would say 2-3 years because of these two reasons.
If Mr. Nambiar, you can come in and share your thoughts about how did you manage when the clients were changing so fast, their needs would have changed so much, their briefs would have changed so fast. How did, as a service provider, you deal with so much change?
So I think luckily the technology industry was probably least impacted, as everybody was saying, in terms of how we did the business. So our challenges were mostly around how do you make sure that we were able to get the employees to be productive and work from home. So the challenges are all around ensuring that they were able to do that. And some of the companies, and we were one of the few lucky ones in terms of having a lot more mobility options, meaning the difference would be that if an organization was heavily into desktops versus laptops, for instance, so if the desktops, it's harder for people to sort of move that into their homes. But we have over 215,000 people in India alone, and worldwide we're about 300,000 people. So if they can't productively work from home using a device such as a laptop or other means, and then have the right level of connectivity, they won't be able to really do their job meaningfully from home. But it turned out that we were, as I said, we were one of the a few companies which had actually a higher penetration of laptops. So we had very few desktops, and we are getting rid of them anyway over the years. So I think it was that nimbleness in terms of ensuring that they were able to sort of be same level of productivity as they were in the office. That was one thing. And then on top of that, while our broader delivery, etc., despite both the waves, second wave included, wasn't in any way impacted because of the resiliency that we built in the organization, and whether it is ensuring that we have the right backups within the city, across the countries, and so on and so forth. So we were able to manage all of that fairly well. I mean, of course, the humanitarian crisis, as I said before, was obviously not a very good one, and we had impact on our associates. Some of our associates even passing away. All of that was extremely difficult. But from a business point of view, I think we were able to continue to serve without major interruptions. And one thing we didn't talk about is that while work from home is probably the new norm, we also cannot underestimate the power of people getting together in all of that, right? Yes, the work went on, the productivity was very good, in some cases actually better, but in the long run, I'm not a big believer that all of these changes is to stay, and we will all continue to do what we're doing. Nobody will get back to office. The office is dead, and all of that. I believe that we're all social animals. At some point in time, we would want to get back into office in some form or fashion. I'm not saying that 100% will be back as we were before the pandemic, but it is important for us to have those softer aspects of what actually makes our lives what they are. And then even at work, I think we would probably need a lot more of the social interaction that we probably were looking at, including the customers.
Mr. Gurnani, people are talking about this whole hybrid workplace. And a lot of people also have reservations about this. What are your views on how the workplace is going to change in the future? And how are you gearing your company to the new reality?
The definition, Vinod, of work from home has anyway changed to work from anywhere, anytime. To me, frankly, the telecom infrastructure, the data infrastructure, the cloud infrastructure has enabled all of that. Question for all of us is, from a human behavior perspective, will we be disciplined enough to remain productive and efficient when we do not have enough interactions with each other? I do believe that the model of office for meetings and home for individual contributions will evolve as we go along. And the surprising data is, when we did a survey, the millennials and the youngsters actually want to work from office, and the older people want to work from home. So, I mean, it's just a contrast, Vinod, but the reality is that youngsters would like to socialize, would like to collaborate, would like to do cooler talk or coffee talk, whereas the older people who have a separate, probably a home office, are happier working from their home offices.
Sure. Arun, if you see, this is one of the trends which will have a direct impact on your business. What are you seeing?
Yeah, we see a lot of digital adoption. I think enterprises are embracing digital, and mostly, I think many of them are taking the digital first approach. And what actually that means is kind of putting systems in place that break down the silos across departments, and creating digital workflows that deliver actually great employee and customer experiences. So fortunately, I think ServiceNow is in a position where we are able to partner with many large enterprises and help them create fantastic customer experiences and great employee experiences. And apart from that, I think just to allude to what even Mr. C.P. Gurnani mentioned, we came up with some great state-of-art softwares in a record time. When the industry needed it the most, and every one of us needed it the most. Whether it was vaccine management, converting vaccines into vaccinations, or it was safe workplace apps, which is all about creating and making sure that when the employees are coming back into the office environment, they are safe and they're productive. And every norms are taken care of in terms of inventory, and every aspect of it is taken care of. So I think we see this as a great opportunity for us with our platform of platform story, which is one data model, one architecture. Making that available to our customers and helping them actually accelerate the digital transformation. So in many ways, we see acceleration of digital transformation, and the people who were or organizations which are a little bit of laggard in adopting digital have come to realization is that digital first is the approach that they need to take, and the ones which are very mature were able to tide over the first wave and second wave very comfortably. And I think they are prepared and resilient for the third wave or whatever we got to see. I hope we don't, but they are very resilient organizations.
Vinod, I would like to come in here if you don't mind.
Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah, I think, well, there have been a lot of gains on this entire hybrid strategy. One thing which really worries all of us is, see, in financial services, all of us are expanding. We also have a reasonable amount of attrition in most organizations. A lot of new people are coming in. And at Kotak, we take great pride in our culture and the way we conduct the organization, the DNA of the organization. I think one of the biggest challenges for all of us is the software aspects of management, getting new people, inducting them into the organization. Skills you can teach them, but how do you teach them the culture? How do you teach them the way the company operates? Because if you're going to be recruited in the COVID era and you're going to spend 12 months work from home, you haven't really seen how the smell of the place is, how the touch and feel of the organization is. I think these are software aspects which are extremely important, and that's something which worries all of us. While a hybrid model is certainly helping us in very many ways, I think we need to play this smartly in terms of making sure that people do come into the organizational fold quite often to get a feel of the workplace and to spread the culture and understand the way the organization works. I think otherwise it is going to be difficult if you're going to have somebody recruited in the COVID and attracted in the COVID and the guy has never seen your organization, right? So I think that's something that we need to really be prepared for. Any amount of digital there is not going to finally take away the equation of bringing him to the office and having a good feel of how the place is, right? So it's a bit of an art and science, if I may say so. But I think that challenge is something all of us need to be aware of. And in fact, I just took over within 2 Kotak Group companies about a month back. And May 1st, I took over. I was head of general insurance company. Today, May 1st, I moved in as a CEO of the life insurance company. I've got a 7,500 organization, and I've never met any of them as yet. Luckily, I'm from the Kotak Group. I knew my one-downs pretty well, and I have an understanding with them, or I'm getting to know them better. But these are challenges which the virtual space cannot solve every bit of it.
This is one topic which polarizes CEOs like anything. Venkat, what are your views on this work from home?
No, I think the pandemic has opened up a fabulous set of options now. I think if I go back to what Mr. Gurnani was saying, and all of us, irrespective of whether you're a CEO or somebody right at the bottom of the hierarchy, we have our share of working with people, meaning needing to be in meetings and needing to be alone. It's just that in our case, the needing to be in meeting share may be high. In some mid-management, it may be medium. At the bottom, it may be low. I think if we organize, therefore, the work from that point of view, that let's say I go maybe 3 days or 4 days to the office every week, whereas somebody else, much junior does the reverse, goes to the office, let's say once a week. And therefore, the point that Mahesh was talking about, which is to be in touch with the company, to the people of the company, the culture of the company, happens in varied ways across. I think that is the beauty of all the lessons that we have learned. And one other important thing is, one unfortunate thing that the pandemic has also introduced is the blurring of lines between work and home. People are now talking all the time, late in the evenings, on weekends. There's no respect in a way. You just seem to be available, just a call away. And it's so easy to set up a Zoom call anytime, any day. Those, things need to be drawn up. Those, respect for others' times need to be drawn up. But I think overall, it's been a fabulous discovery of a very different way of working without losing the culture of the organization.
So Rajesh, a lot of your workforce works remote. So was work from home a big challenge for you, or it was just part of course?
Well, I think without a question, I think the pandemic has actually separated the physical location, both from how the work gets done. And I think some of you use the word not just work from home, but work from anywhere, right? So that is clearly has been something that we all adopt. Initially, it was a bit of a challenge, as I mentioned before. It took a little bit of a time for us to sort of settle down on that mode, but I thought that was pretty quick in terms of how we all felt it was, to a point where it was actually more productive than people actually showing up to office. And as I said, while this is okay at this point in time, many of the things that you do as an organization, whether you're a tech company or a manufacturing organization or anybody else, there are a few things which requires probably people to sort of get together, whiteboard and have the right level of thinking and so on and so forth. So for those type of creative work, I believe that this may not be a great option if it sustains for a too long period of time. But for all the mundane work and for all the work which people do get done on a day-to-day basis, I think it's been actually a blessing. People don't commute, so I think it's been completely normalized in the short order. Again, as I said before, technology is 100% central to all the stuff that we were able to enable. Right? If you don't have the connectivity, if you didn't have the right level of infrastructure, then you may not have been able to do that. So overall, I believe that while this whole hybrid model that everybody is talking about today will be the norm as we move into the future, what percentage of that you get done from a physical office versus how much you would do from work from anywhere, all of that is, in my mind, it will evolve over a period of time. There is no one size fits all. Depending on what you need to do as a company, I think it will change a little bit. But the opportunities are plenty. I think the ability for us to do more in some areas of our business is absolutely true, but there are other parts of the business we believe, at least I believe that we will get back into a physical office at some point in time and then do some of those work from office as well.
So we've just come out of the second lockdown and vaccination rates are going up. All the CEOs here will have to start preparing for the recovery process. How are you dealing with that, getting the organization ready, getting back to office, making changes? Sharad, so if you can start.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, we want to make sure that all our employees are vaccinated twice and at least 15 days post that before we start opening up. We, as an essential services data center service provider, we do have our frontline workers who've been working round the clock right from the beginning. And we've made sure that they get vaccinated, and we will ensure that they have their second dose also soon. And basically, once vaccinations are done, both the doses are done, then we'll slowly start opening up to normal, to people who don't have to be around the clock in shifts to come to office. And that too, I believe hybrid workplace is the future. We will not force people to come even then. I mean, we want people to come once they're comfortable. It will take some time before especially people who've lost relatives, it will take some time for them to come. So given that things are functioning smoothly, we will probably take some time before we start opening up our offices. We do believe, though, I totally echo Vinod's point that there are certain things that will require in-person presence, especially when it comes to innovation, brainstorming, whiteboarding. We do believe that those we've been doing from time to time. We try to do this on Zoom and Microsoft Teams, but that it's just not the same. So I do believe that will happen a lot more in the coming times. But we don't intend to open up for everyone until everybody is doubly vaccinated and some time has elapsed, right? So that's when we'll really start opening up. Yeah.
So Venkat, when are you planning to start across India?
Actually, last year we did a fair amount of work from office in person. In fact, 8th of May, I went back to office and have not stopped since the pandemic wave 2 came, and a fair amount of us have been working because we are a retailing company. Our people have to be in the stores, and even as a measure of solidarity, we were thinking of that. So all of us are vaccinated in the company now, the first dose, that is, because all the retail employees need to present that safe face to all our customers. And like I said, there is no hurry to get people to work. because we have understood the advantages of hybrid. And in the next 2-3 months, we will put together a certain way of working, like I said, 3 days for these kind of people and 4 days for those kind of people kind of thing. There's no major hurry other than the people in manufacturing and retail because they cannot work from home. That is the focus at the moment.
Rajesh, have you started unrolling your recovery plan?
So what we have done, Vinod, is right from the start of the pandemic, I mean, in between there was a period where there were more and more people who were experimenting coming back to office. But especially the moment the second wave hit, we've gone back to the mode of 99% roughly of our workforce is actually working from home till recently. Worldwide, there are some areas where we've started to open up, in the place like United States, Europe, where we believe that it is safe and then people have been vaccinated. I think you've started to work from the office. Even in India, today we have a process where only the essential people who cannot work from home because of the fact that you need access to special networks, special equipments, etc. from the office, or there's a customer who demands us that we work from office, they go back to office. But to your earlier point, Vinod, I think the vaccinations are going to be the key. We have started, as I said before, we have a fairly large, we are the second largest private sector employer in India today, right? And the largest multinational employer in India. So with about 220,000 employees, we have 30,000-40,000 of the people who are supporting us from a contract point of view and their families. So we're looking at a 650,000 people vaccination program. And we have, I'm so happy to say that we're making a lot of progress over the last 3-4 weeks. I think, we've done a good amount of vaccination, close to about 80,000-90,000 people that we have vaccinated as of now. I think we'll continue to do that for the rest of the time. And then we believe that we will give it as I think, Sharad, you mentioned, we're not in a great hurry to bring everybody back to the office at all. Because as I said, there is a good amount of productivity that we get people working from home. So I think that's good, but I think we'll continue to double down on the vaccination program because I believe that that's going to be the ultimate solution for all of us to be getting back to office.
So Mahesh, when are you planning to meet your staff?
Well, I think like everybody else said, I think vaccination is the key in terms of getting people and making the workplace safer. But having said that, if I look at what unfolds maybe after this vaccination is done, I think we will probably have 3 sets of employees who necessarily have to come to work. Second is the ones who will be working from home predominantly. And the third is a hybrid model. So we are working on various options. In fact, we have started hot desking in some of our offices where people who work from home can choose a day to come to the office. They'll probably book a workstation for themselves. Sitting at home, it's like booking a movie seat in PVR or a thing like that. So we have certain seats which have been kept as hot desking seats. The employee can log in and say, okay, I want to come on Tuesday. Let me see which desk is available. And he can block a seat and come, which we believe will handle some of the issues I spoke about in terms of making them part of the organization. So we're going to have 3 sets of people in terms of working from home permanently, working from office permanently, and the hybrids. But we're not in a hurry to implement any of these things because what is important is the protecting the lives of people. And I think the vaccination program, as and when things improve, and one hopes that by September, October, we would have probably reached a certain level of vaccination, which will lead us to herd immunity. I think these things will start happening over the next maybe 6 to 9 months.
Sure. I think we've run out of time. Just one last question with one of that, and we'll have 1 line or 1 word answers for it. What was the key learning from the COVID crisis? I think we can start from Venkat.
I think agility.
Arun?
For me, I would say digital first approach.
Sure. Rajesh?
I would say digital transformation and the ability for companies to be truly survive when they're digital.
Mahesh?
The new normal is here, embrace it.
Sure. Sharad, last words?
Resilience. It's amazing to see the resilience of not only our employees, but the whole of India, right? How we've withstood the pandemic. So I think that's the key word for me.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for spending time out of your busy schedules. I really loved having a chat with you. I'm sure it will be useful for a lot of our viewers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vinod.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.